we meet again Danny Rand. So Iron Fist Season 2 is now available on Netflix, and all 10 episodes are available to stream, and this continues the story of New York billionaire turned vigilante Danny Rand, who after the first season has now, and also after the first season of The Defenders, has taken up the role of the presumed dead Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, to protect the streets of New York while he is dead, and he wants to carry on that mantle. But when an old friend returns posing a new threat, Danny and Colleen have to come back out of the shadow and attack this new thing up front. Now, Iron Fist is an interesting show because in terms of the overall MCU Netflix shows, Iron Fist is usually regarded as the weak one. A lot of people really did not enjoy Season 1. Me personally, I don't think Season 1 is anywhere near as bad as some people say it is. Yes, it is easily the weakest of the Marvel Netflix seasons overall. I think it is probably the weakest one. If I was to do a ranking, I would put Season 1 of Iron Fist at the bottom. I think Iron Fist overall is actually a pretty interesting character, and I feel like the first season just didn't quite know which direction to take it, and they tried to take it in a bit more of a Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne, Oliver Queen kind of route, instead of taking it more down the action route, which was a bit of a shame. But I feel like, you know, with Season 2, they got rid of Scott Buck as the showrunner. We got this new guy who is very passionate about this character and about this show, and it really proved to me that there was potential in this show, and Season 2 delivered. First off, I want to talk about the characters. For one, Colleen Wing, who was easily the best part about Season 1, continues to be the best part about Season 2. Jessica Henwick is so good in this role. She's so dynamic, she's really personable, you really relate to her, and you feel like she's just easily the heart and soul of this show, and that becomes more prevalent as the season goes on. Of course, there are no spoilers in this review, but if you've seen the season, you'll know what I mean by that. So it's very interesting to see how Colleen gets even more development, even more depth in this season, which I really appreciate. And Jessica Henwick is up to the task, as she always is. I'm really just a huge fan of her character. And also, Simone Missick returns in this season as Misty Knight, obviously Misty Knight being a character from Luke Cage. And she is actually my favourite character from Luke Cage, and she is in a huge amount of this season. I thought she was going to be in like 1, maybe 2 episodes, like Colleen Wing was in Luke Cage Season 2. But she's actually in a huge part of this season, which I really appreciate, because Simone Missick is so charismatic, she's so likeable, she just shows up, she has this presence, and again, it's that partnership between her and Colleen Wing that is undeniable. Obviously, this is the Daughters of the Dragon. I just need a Daughters of the Dragon show. That's what I need right now. Take away all the other Marvel Netflix shows. I could literally just take a Daughters of the Dragon show with Colleen Wing and Misty Knight together. They are just so good. And again, Misty Knight, very welcome to have her on this show once again. And also, I do have to dig a big shout out to Tom Pelphrey, who returns as Ward Meacham. Ward was one of my favourite characters last season. I'm a big fan of Tom Pelphrey. He played a really awesome character on my favourite show, or one of the best shows I've ever seen, Banshee. So to see him come back again as Ward, I was a little bit shaky on Ward at first this season, because I wasn't quite sure whether we were going to take him, where's he going this season. But by the end, I actually really love where he ends up, and especially in the season finale and the last 2 episodes in particular, Ward really steps up, and I think he's a great character, and he has a great arc this season. One character I wasn't the biggest fan of this season was Joy Meacham. I just feel like her character was a bit annoying, especially because at the end of Season 1, they set her up to be a bit more of a villain this season, and that is true. But her character goes through this weird arc, and she just kind of becomes a bit predictable towards the end, and I just didn't really enjoy what they did with her, especially because the actor, I think, is a lot better than that. So I felt like she was just able to just kind of play along, and it wasn't really as good as it could have been. I like Joy, and I liked her in Season 1 a lot more, to be honest, but I feel like in Season 2, they just kind of took her character down the wrong route. You know, they tried something, and it just didn't really work. It's okay, it's not terrible, but it's just could have been a lot better. Now, the villains were a huge step up this season. I think the villains in the first season, no good at all. But here we have the returning villain of Davos, who comes back as the Steel Serpent, and he was great. I think the actor, I think his name is Sasha Darvin, something like that. I do apologise, sir. But you are great in this season. You are so good. You are very passionate. You are very angry. You just embrace this character of Davos, who, you know, he has a lot of good moments in this season, especially in terms of intensity and in terms of emotion. His relationship with Dany is strained. He has a very interesting relationship with Joy as well. And also, he has a very good motivation. You get to see why he's doing what he's doing, because he was a character in Season 1. This is Dany's brother from Kunlun. So you can see that there is this relationship here. But when you actually see in the season why he's doing what he's doing, why he's taking this evil turn, although he's going about it the wrong way, you do see where he's coming from, and you do see why he's doing what he's doing. And that's always a perfect thing with a villain. That is one thing you need with a good villain. You need to understand why they are coming from and what they're doing. And you get that with Davos. And also I have to talk about Alice Eve as Typhoid Mary, or Mary Walker, in this show. Obviously Typhoid Mary is typically known as a Daredevil villain in the comics, but they brought her over to Iron Fist for this show, and I thought she was a wonderful addition as well. When she first showed up, I wasn't too keen. I was a bit shaky. I was a bit like, where are you coming? I don't quite know what you're trying to do here. But as the season goes on and you get introduced to the multiple personalities of Mary and Walker, she becomes a lot more intriguing. She's a very interesting character. She's got a very good backstory, which actually ties into the wider MCU. I won't spoil what that is if you haven't seen it, but it's a very interesting connection. And again, she's a very cool character. She has a lot of good action sequences. I think Alice Eve does a really good job of playing both Mary and Walker. I think she's a very good and pleasant character and a good introduction to the show. And I quite like as well where they end off with her character. The door is open for her to return, which is always a good thing. And I would be very happy to see her return in a show. Maybe not even return to Iron Fist, but I'd like to see her come back in maybe Daredevil or maybe even The Punisher. I think it'd be really cool to see that. But I was very impressed with Typhoid Mary in the end. Now, one thing Season 1 got heavily criticised for was its fight choreography. Obviously, there was the kind of rumour and the rant and speculation that Finn Jones only got 5 minutes before filming the scene to actually learn his moves. In this, you can just see how much work and effort they put into it. You can see how much they trained Finn Jones and all the other respective actors in order to do these fight choreography scenes, because they are really intense, they are exciting, they are riveting, you're on the edge of your seat watching them. It reminds me, a lot of the action that's in Daredevil or in the action that's in Arrow. It's very similar to that, it's very, gritty, it's very real, it's very violent, and that's what I wanted to see. And if you watch the behind the scenes videos that are on YouTube that Netflix posted, you'll be able to see how much time they really did put into choreographing these scenes, making sure they were the best they could be, so when they do show up on screen you are impressed and you buy it, and you do buy it. And I think that's incredibly important, especially because this show, out of all the Marvel Netflix shows, should have the best fight choreography. This is Iron Fist. This is that character. This is, this is the character that should have the martial arts and should have those really, really awesome finesse fight scenes. Because while Daredevil does have great fight scenes, Daredevil's more of a brawler in comparison to Iron Fist. So I feel like this show really needed to nail that. It didn't in Season 1, but it does in Season 2. Also, the setting is really interesting because they actually take the streets and they actually go to the streets of New York, specifically Chinatown, which is very interesting because this is obviously Asian kind of heritage character. Obviously, I know Danny Rand is obviously a white American in the comics. We obviously had that massive debacle back in Season 1, which I won't even go into. But obviously, having such an Asian connection, because Kunlun is in Asia, the Iron Fist typically Asian, so you'd be able to see that, and having it set in Chinatown I think was a good way to readdress the balance, and I think it was a really nice setting as well, something different, something we don't really see often, and it actually again adds some more balance to the wider MCU Netflix shows, because obviously we have Daredevil, which takes place in Hell's Kitchen, and also Jessica Jones takes place in Hell's Kitchen, we have Luke Cage, which takes place in Harlem, and now we have Iron Fist, which takes place in Chinatown. So I think that's really interesting, the fact that each of these defenders kind of are defending a separate section of New York each, and I think that's really cool and very interesting indeed. So it was really nice to be in Chinatown. We got to deal with the Triad, we got to deal with the wars between them, that kind of intertwined into Davos' story. It was just a really interesting setting, it's something different for the eyes to see. Now, the one thing I will say about this season, my only real negative that really stands out to me is the pacing. The pacing is still a bit of an issue. I feel like all the Marvel Netflix shows suffer from this, where they all have a bit too long episodes and they feel a bit dragged out. Now, luckily, this season is only 10 episodes. They knocked it down from 13 to 10, which was a great decision. I was very happy with that. But it's just the episodes do drag sometimes, not all the time. It's mainly during the middle, sort of episodes 5, 6, 7. It's a bit slow. Like the first half of it's very good, and then I think, it kind of slows down in the middle, but then it really picks up at the end. Like, especially when you get to 8, 9, 10. 9 and 10 in particular, it's just skyrockets and it's fine. So yeah, it's just that kind of slow, middle section that is a bit slow and a bit meandering. And again, it's a trap that all the Marvel Netflix shows fall into, especially Jessica Jones and The Punisher. They kind of fell into that quite a bit. And it does very minorly, but like I said, it's not as bad as some of the others. And the pacing's still a slight issue, but again, it is improved. So again, you've got to look at the positives there. Now, in regards to Season 3, Iron Fist has not yet been renewed for a Season 3. Will it get renewed? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know how well this is done. I haven't actually checked the numbers. I don't know how much this is sort of making and, how many people have been watching it. But it's quite interesting because Luke Cage has not been renewed for Season 3 yet either. Jessica Jones has, but Season 3 is probably quite a while off there. But Luke Cage and Iron Fist have still yet to be renewed for their third seasons, but I would love to see a third season of Iron Fist, especially because, once again, no spoilers, but that finale was absolutely insane. And where they end off with Colleen, where they end off with Danny, where they end off with Ward, It's very, very cool and very interesting, and they have a great storyline they can jump straight into for season 3 if they want to do it. They've set it up, they've got it, and I would love to see a season 3. If we get this showrunner back, get him back, make sure he does it once again, because like I said, he really delivered season 2. I really want a season 3 now. I really want to see where they can take this storyline that they've hinted at, because it's very cool. So make sure you go watch Iron Fist season 2 so you can make sure that we get a season 3, because it really deserves it at this point. So did you guys see Iron Fist season 2? If you did, make sure you tell me all your thoughts about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a conversation about Iron Fist season 2 in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews or TV reviews from me, be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again in my next video.